Hello and welcome to this Tuesday edition of the World Report. I'm Arjun, Samar, Mahendran, and here's what's making headlines around the world. The situation remains tense in Kathmandu, with protesters trying to barge into the Nepali Congress Party office. The protesters have set a traffic post outside the party's office on fire. That's the latest we're getting for you. The agitation, meanwhile, comes at a day after the Nepal government revoked its ban on social media platforms in the country, or across the country rather, after protests led by Gen Z or the youth opposing the ban and government's corruption resulted in the deaths of at least 19 people and left over 400 others injured. My colleague Aditya Raj Kaul gets you the latest from Ground Zero, Kathmandu.
Very angry opinion coming from the youth of Nepal, saying that the social media was banned. That led to not just a crisis, small business owners and influencers, but daily life got impacted for people. And this was a draconian measure by the Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli. And apart from that, the corruption charges that have been leveled against him. If Prem can pan and show you, these are the anti-riot gear, police of the Nepal police that has been deployed here all across the the Parliament complex, across the neighboring area. And if we can move a little further, there's been massive stone pelting in this area. There are tires that have been burning, and hundreds and hundreds of protesters who have converged here, who say that this violent protest will continue. The youth are rising here in Nepal for a regime change and perhaps want a transparent and a government that is for the people and not an elitist government that actually remains in their elite towers and palaces and in fact does not bring any transparency. So the protest here only continues. We are continuously bringing you live visuals from this protest area. This is the main area just meters away from the Nepal Parliament. Prem is showing you that exact complex next to the barricade is the Nepal Parliament, where in fact the army has been deployed. In fact, more forces and ambulances you can see that are coming in this area, even as the APF, the anti-riot gear police has been stationed here. Every passing minute, the amount of people that are coming here to protest is only increasing. So very, very, dramatic visuals coming on your screens of the deployment of the APF, but also people who are demanding justice, who are demanding action, who are saying that there needs to be accountability at the highest level. There has been joblessness, there has been, complete economic downturn, and the responsibility is with the Prime Minister of the country.
A massive political crisis is unfolding in Western Europe, in France to be particular. Prime Minister François Bayrou is set to resign, marking the collapse of President Emmanuel Macron's government yet again. Now, viewers, this is the fourth time President Macron lost in just 20 months, and the second government collapse in less than a year at that. Now, the turmoil raises serious questions about Macron's authority, his ability to govern with a fractured parliament, and also, more importantly, the very stability of France at a time of economic strain and far-right resurgence. Across the ocean in Washington, Democrats on the House Oversight Committee have released a sexually suggestive letter to Jeffrey Epstein, purportedly signed by none other than US President Donald Trump, which he has vehemently denied. Now, Trump has said that he did not write the letter or create the drawing of a curvaceous woman that surrounds this letter you see on your screens right now there. Now, Trump also filed a $10 billion lawsuit against the Wall Street Journal for a report on this alleged letter, which was included as part of a 2003 album compiled for alleged sex trafficker Epstein's birthday. Now, the letter released by the committee looks exactly as described by the Wall Street Journal in its report. The president, furthermore, has denied having anything at all to do with it. The Federal Appeals Court on Monday upheld a civil jury's finding that President Donald Trump must pay $83.3 million to E. Jean Carroll for his repeated social media attacks against the longtime advice columnist after she accused him of sexual assault. The three-judge panel of the Second U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals rejected Trump's appeal of the defamation award, finding that the jury's damages awards are fair and reasonable in the court's words. Now, Trump had argued, in fact, that the damages were unreasonably excessive and had also pushed for a new trial in light of the Supreme Court's expansion of presidential immunity. Authorities still won't reveal the exact cause of damage to the government building in Kyiv during a massive Russian strike on the Ukrainian capital city early on Saturday. An Associated Press crew was sent at the site on Monday and in fact saw what looked like projectile fragments. The State Emergency Service Chief said that experts are conducting relevant investigations, removing relevant physical evidence, and will give relevant conclusions. Listen in.
Відповідні фахівці проводять відповідні дослідження, вилучають відповідні речові докази і дадуть відповідні висновки, що саме було причиною враження будівлі.
А в котрі сталося?
Сталося десь близько без 5-6. О 6 годині 3 хвилини почали надходити повідомлення про пожежу до підрозділів Державної служби надзвичайних ситуацій.
UN spokesperson Stephanie Dujarric on Monday told the press the Secretary General condemned the attack on a bus in Jerusalem. He highlighted the humanitarian situation, saying people are in dire need of food, they are in dire need of water, and they're, in course, in dire need of shelter items. Palestinian attackers opened fire at a bus stopped during the morning rush hour in Jerusalem on Monday, killing 6 people and wounding 12 others. Now, here's more.
Secretary General strongly condemns the attacks by the Russian Federation on September 7th, which killed and injured several people, including children. The attack struck a government building in central Kyiv and damaged residential and other civilian infrastructure in the capital and other regions of Ukraine. The targeting of government institutions represents a further escalation in this conflict. Attacks against civilians and civilian infrastructure violate international humanitarian law. They are unacceptable and they must end immediately.
Meanwhile, we shift our focus to India, where External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar on Monday, speaking at the BRICS Summit 2025, in fact stressed the need for fair and transparent economic practices that in fact benefit all amid rising trade tensions sparked by Donald Trump's tariffs. Now, speaking at the virtual BRICS meeting, Jaishankar said the group should focus on building a more resilient supply chain, especially at a time when multiple disruptions are affecting international trade. Here's the External Affairs Minister for you.
The world today also seeks an urgent resolution of ongoing conflicts. A selective protection cannot be a global answer. An early end to the hostilities and undertaking diplomacy to ensure a durable solution is the obvious pathway before us. These experiences have only made the case for reformed multilateralism generally, and that of the United Nations and its Security Council specifically, more urgent. The BRICS have taken a positive view of this need for reform, and we expect that it would collectively become a strong voice for much awaited change.
Thailand Supreme Court said former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra must serve a 1-year prison term for previous convictions on graft and abuse of power charges. Now, this comes after investigating whether officials had indeed mishandled his return to Thailand back in 2023, that's 2 years ago, to begin serving the sentences. A judge also added that the enforcement of Thaksin's penalty was not done properly, and therefore his detention in a police hospital did not count as serving prison time. Now, following his return to Thailand after more than a decade of living in self-exile, Thaksin was sent to a suite at Bangkok's Police General Hospital, reportedly for medical reasons, after spending less than a day inside prison. Over in Latin America, supporters of Brazil's former President Jair Bolsonaro gathered on Monday in a prayer vigil ahead of his trial next to the condominium, the very condominium where he's under house arrest currently. Now, clutching Bibles and Brazilian flags, as you see there on your screens, demonstrators sang hymns, prayed and called for divine intervention, claiming the country's highest court is acting with political bias, a claim that actually was reverberated by US President Donald Trump. Meanwhile, a panel of Supreme Court justices is set to decide this week itself whether Bolsonaro is guilty or not of planning to overthrow Brazil's democracy and hang on to power illegally after his 2022 electoral defeat. Meanwhile, AP's Maurizio gets you this report.
So this is Monday night in Brasilia. We're really close to the home of former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro. Some people are honking at this sign behind me because they want him to run in next year's presidential election and go back to office, despite the fact that for now, he's ineligible. He is going to be standing trial for 5 different counts in an alleged coup trial. But still, his supporters are here. They are praising his policies, his conservative policies. They are praying for him and hope that he returns. Of course, that's going to be a very tall order, according to many experts who believe he's going to be convicted in this trial. Even some people here, they do believe that he's going to be convicted too, but they hope that Brazil's Congress is going to give him some kind of amnesty, and that will allow him either to stay at the house arrest that he's currently in, or just be freed from all the accusations he has received so far.
Shift our focus to Southeast Asia, where Shanghai Wild Animal Park has announced that its giant panda Qinjin successfully gave birth to 2 cubs, 1 male and 1 female, on the 22nd of August. Now, this marks the first birth of a second-generation giant panda in the city. Now, according to the park, the female cub was in fact born at 4:11 p.m. local time, weighing in at 200 grams, followed by the male cub at 5:17 p.m., weighing in at 160 grams. Now, as of Thursday, the female cub had reached 499, almost 500 grams, while the male cub weighed in at 395 grams. Both cubs have shown remarkable growth, steadily gaining weight and developing distinct physical characteristics. Now, most notably, the classic back markings around their eyes and ears have become increasingly visible. Listen in.
大熊猫千金今年呢已经满8岁了，那么正处于这个最好的年华啊。那么今年呢也是它首次生产。虽然我们大熊猫千金是首次生产，但是在我们的龙凤胎宝宝出生以后呢，我们大熊猫千金表现出了极强的这个天然母性，那么非常悉心的，并非常好的照顾着我们的熊猫宝宝。目前呢，我们一个宝宝呢是由千金亲自来哺育，另外一个宝宝呢是我们人工育幼的。那么并且呢会定期进行一个换崽，2个崽崽进行交换嘛，让我们的妈妈可以熟悉我们2个宝宝的成长，也让我们的宝宝可以熟悉妈妈的怀抱感受到妈妈的爱。所以呢，对我们大熊猫妈妈跟宝宝都是一个身心健康成长的一个必要的环节。
And with that, it's time we slip into a short break. Much more lined up on the other side. Welcome back. You're watching the Tuesday edition of the World Report. Now we shift our gaze to the world of business, where Japan's Nikkei share average climbed past the key 44,000 mark for the first time on Tuesday. Now, this comes as optimism over trade and potential increases in stimulus spending uplifted sentiment. The Nikkei 225 index surged as much as 1.24% to an unprecedented 44,185 in early trading, just before pairing gains to enter the midday trading recess, up 0.2% at 43,732. This as the steepness of the rally spurred some profit-taking. Intel has announced a series of top executive changes on Monday, including the departure of products chief Michelle Johnston at a time when CEO Lip Bhutan intensifies efforts to turn around the struggling US chipmaker. Now, Hortudas, who will leave, in fact, after more than 3 decades with Intel, had held numerous senior leadership roles. This also includes the interim co-chief executive officer following the ouster of former CEO Pat Gelsinger just last year. Now, she will remain a strategic advisor over the coming months. Australia's ANZ Group's new CEO, Nuno Matos, warned of more ugly changes to come at the Australian lender after the announcement of 3,500 job cuts on Tuesday. But he said the decision would safeguard its future growth. The bank said it would take a $369 million restructuring charge following one of the largest rounds of job cuts in the sector in recent history. The 39th Mount Thai International Climbing Competition 2025 and the 30th National Fitness Mount Thai hiking activity kicked off on Monday in Tian, East China's Shandong province, as part of the 39th Mount Thai International Climbing Festival. 3,000 professional athletes from around the world, along with 8,000 sports enthusiasts, gather at the foot of Mount Thai to compete. The competition, for perspective, is divided into 3 groups: youth, middle-aged and elderly, with 2 sub-items for each group, male and female, and the participating age range is between 18 and 65 years old. Viewers, the battle for Asia begins today. Afghanistan take on Hong Kong in the tournament opener. India, meanwhile, are the official hosts of the 8-team tournament, but due to strained political relations with Pakistan, the matches are now being played on a neutral territory. The next 3 weeks will provide, in fact, the stage for politics, passion, and new rivalries.